Rochester Selectboard, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor Scott as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to Addendum 6 to Executive Order 01-20 and Act 92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. In accordance with Act 92, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the temporary amendments to the open meeting law, I confirm that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, video, or other electronic means, and we're using the Zoom platform for this remote meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if desired, participate in this meeting by contacting the town clerk to request the invitation to the meeting and or finding the links on the publicly noticed warnings of the meeting. We gave previous notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing this meeting, including how to access the meeting using the telephone, video, or other electronic means in our posted meeting agenda. And basically, that's the scoop. And here we are. Thank you for coming out on or staying in on this holiday evening. And I'd first like to ask if anyone has any additions to the agenda at this time.
I'd like to give a shout out to my big brother, Bob, for his service to our country in Vietnam. Thank you very much, Bob.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that the VFW Post put on a very nice, very tiny but nice little wreath laying ceremony at Woodlawn Cemetery today, this morning.
Yeah, abbreviated but meaningful.
But meaningful, yes, it was. Yeah. It was wonderful.
I guess I have one thing I'd like to add to the agenda, and that would be talking about the town writing us a letter of support for the Bellomont Trail NBRC grant application, and amongst a whole bunch of other people expressing support to that. So we can talk about that. All right, got the agendas. So we have, thank you Orca Media for being here to keep an eye on things and keep it recorded. We have the minutes for the prior meeting of May 11th, select board minutes. I had no changes to that. How about Frank, Pat, are you okay with those?
I am. I'm okay.
Then I'd move to accept those minutes as recorded.
I second it.
All in favor?
All right.
All right.
Aye.
Got those. I don't see Joan here with us tonight, but she did, I guess we won't get any updates from her or the library. There's no one here from the highway. Let's just move on to our, the things on the agenda that we've got going here.
Dune, isn't the May 15th executive session minutes need to be addressed too?
Yes, you're right. I see that on here. And I would move to accept those.
I second it.
that.
Yep. All in favor?
All right.
All righty. There we go. Thank you, Frank.
Yep.
See
No
that.
problem.
So we had the issue of concerts on the park. What the thoughts are about concerts on the park. And,
just want you to know that Joe is here.
okay. Hi, Joe. And I understand, Joe, you have made arrangements and have a schedule set up for concerts on the park.
Yes, I do. It's a light schedule. It's 5 concerts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 concerts, starting July 5 and ending August 2 and going every Sunday through those. I can name those if you'd like, but that's it, every Sunday from July 5 through August 2nd.
I don't know if we need to name the performers at this time. I guess what we want to really talk about is do we feel comfortable that the park is big enough and the turnouts are usually modest enough that we have enough space to have those concerts. I feel personally that it would be a good energetic boost for the town to have that.
Dune?
Yeah,
Well, I'm head of the park committee. Actually, I am the park committee, and I would agree with you. I wanted to say that of all the things that we're going to have to worry about canceling or having, this is something I think we can safely have because the park is big enough and people bring their own chairs and sit, and or else they sit in their cars. A lot of people do that. And so obviously if they're in their cars, they're far enough away from each other. And when people are sitting together, I've noticed pretty much they sit in family groups. Sometimes they sit with friends, but there's plenty of space to social distance. And when I went, for example, to the cemetery today, just about everybody was wearing a face mask too. So I think this would be safe. And not only do I think it'd be a wonderful thing for people to just have something to go to look forward to, but also those 5 musicians, all the musicians have been losing work left and right because of this, and it'd be nice to be able to pay a few of them.
mhm.
Yeah, I totally agree. There was a great response when I posted the calendar of events about a month ago. There's a terrific response. The response from the performers couldn't be better. I mean, Martha's right. They don't have jobs basically, and they're just thrilled, to have this. I also want to say that I did write a disclaimer to all the performers in the sense that it was worded, and they totally understood that pending government order, so to speak, this was on, but it could be overruled. And so they all understand that. I just want you to know that. And they, once again, I hate to brag, but Rochester Park is one of the biggest and most beautiful parks in the whole state. We were just in Brandon the other day, and they have a little tiny peninsula of a park. Randolph has a little, but there's plenty of room. Everybody's right to space out and to my biggest draw, Rick Reddington, kind of fills the park. But even that said, there's large spaces between people. Okay, that's pretty much it.
Pat?
I also think that perhaps we may have a much larger attendance because of the lack of any other type of
Totally
entertainment.
agree, Patty. Good thought.
The space to accommodate.
Joe, I don't know if you've gotten posters made yet or not, but if you haven't and can put across the bottom of the poster something about social distancing or whatever, I was planning to put that in an article announcing the concerts that I was going to run in next week's Herald.
Okay, I'll do that.
I think that's important to include. But you're right. People are, really.
It's thrilled. I think Patty's right. I think the draw will be bigger if anything. I mean, you can expect, the crowd plus.
So I have a question. Would there be garbage cans on the park this year? Would there be any porta potties or any facilities that people can use when they come to the concerts? How is that going to work for people?
We've never had porta potties before, but I don't know.
That's for July 4th. We've never had porta potties, and I don't know for the concert.
No, not for the concerts. We've never had them,
No.
and I don't think that we want to start that now. I don't think that we'd be putting out garbage containers, which we haven't in the past. It's basically you bring it in, you take it home with you.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
in the past, there hasn't been a pandemic where restaurants and other places that offered services for people were available. So this is different this year.
That's true.
Right,
thought.
but we've also been instructed to lock the porta potty down at the by the fire station there, just because we don't want to create a public space where people are going to be going in and who we don't have anyone going in there cleaning after everyone. So I think that if people are going to come out to go see a concert, they're going to have to manage their personal needs.
And I saw something on the news this morning about porta potties and about how a lot of places are not going to have them because of the issue of keeping them,
Right.
germ-free, et cetera. So,
I mean, who would think that a porta potty would be full of germs anyway?
Yeah, right.
who knows?
Historically, I'll have to say that I send very few people to use restrooms, and usually it's a skip mart. And the exception to this that we need to consider is that the band is often there 2 or 3 hours before the event.
True.
So they're the ones that most requested, and I usually send them to the park house right across the street.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So we need to think about that alternative.
I wouldn't send them to the Skip Mart because the last time I bought gas there, you can't walk inside.
No, that's what I'm saying is we have
Yeah,
to think that one out. That one is
Yeah.
not a given because, and once again, the band usually arrives 2 or 3 hours early and they need to have facilities.
Yeah, and the park house is definitely not where to
Right,
send them.
exactly.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder if Pierce Hall would be willing to allow the band to have a refuge. Pierce
It
Hall.
very well might.
It's not.
I don't,
refuge, it's just-
well, you know, restrooms or whatever they need if they're there 2 hours ahead of time, but park house isn't going to be a good place.
No.
You might ask Becky Donay about that. I think she's kind of like the ground supervisor, so to speak, for Pierce
I
Hall.
don't
The
have
rental
an answer right
manager.
now. It's something that maybe we can all think about, or
Yeah.
maybe somebody has an idea they can get back to me on.
And so
Glad you
my-
brought it up to make me aware of it.
My other question is, when people come in their cars, if they want to social distance and stay in their cars, is it okay for them to park on their cars on the park all the way around the
They
perimeter?
always have.
They always do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
They park
That's a good
facing
point. I
in.
mean, a lot of people might not want to get out of their cars. I mean, a lot of people
Right.
don't want to get out of their cars anyway, so now they have a good excuse.
When I was a little kid, everybody parked in facing in around the park, and it was always the South Royalton town, or that was always the Rochester town band. But anyway, instead of clapping, a lot of people just honked their horns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Still do.
So, parking
All
around.
right, so we're in agreement that we'll move forward with the concerts on the park, and we'll
Great.
iron out the issues of
details.
where they could use a
Yeah,
bathroom.
thanks for making me all aware of that. It's good input. I'll be
Yeah.
back burner stuff.
Does
I
that
just
sound
think
good to
we
you,
need
Frank?
I just think we need to maintain whatever the state of affairs is as far as COVID is concerned, and make sure
Absolutely.
that we're all safe with that.
Yeah,
So, this is subject to change, but as of now, I don't see why it shouldn't be a go.
Totally
But
subject to change. I
If
agree,
something
Frank.
comes up.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
so,
Yep.
so that leads on to a more crowded topic of conversation is the 4th of July parade.
Dune, I've been putting a lot of thought into this because I've been organizing this for, 15, 20 years. I don't know, a long time anyway. And the more I think about it, and then I heard this morning that the Tunbridge Fair is canceled. They've canceled the governor's canceled all kinds of fairs and gatherings. Now, I know this is not a fair, but when I looked at pictures that I had from past parades, we get sometimes 250, 300, maybe more people
Yeah, it's a
squashed
big
kind of
crowd.
on the park. And there's just no way that I think you can keep people far enough apart even, and you can't guarantee everybody's going to wear a mask. And I know the Warren Parade is canceled
Yep.
and Montpelier Parade is canceled, and I don't want to do it, but I'll take guidance from you guys. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. But I'm thinking maybe we should skip it this year. I don't want to.
So I
What does everybody else think?
I was kind of thinking the same thing. I had a thought earlier that what about, I see we have the first concert is scheduled for the 5th of July. Is it possible to move that to the 4th of July and replace the parade with a band event?
I don't know. You could ask Joe.
You still there, Joe? Anyway,
Joe left, but I'm here. Can I convey a message?
yeah, I was just thinking if we go ahead and cancel the 4th of July parade, what's the possibility of moving that 5th of July first park concert to the 4th of July? So we still do have a smaller scale 4th of July celebration, or just a thought. It's not for, a little over a month now, so we could dwell on that, but that was just a thought I had.
Yeah, usually Jake Wildwood loves to do the 4th. I mean, we could have back-to-back concerts. I mean,
Sure.
what day does the 4th fall on?
It's a Saturday.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's not my call, and I can mute this and go get him.
Yeah, that's all right. I just thought I'd throw that out there as a,
June, if I was also thinking part of the parade, 4th of July parade thing, sometimes we've had like a running race in the morning, and we've had a chicken barbecue, and we've had games for kids and stuff. I mean, that's just too much.
it's too much. Yeah, I agree.
So if you wanted me to, I could look into seeing if Jake would do, a concert and and it could be like a 4th of July evening concert, because maybe, I don't know of anybody who has fireworks around here. But I don't know. I could look into an alternative if you'd like me to. I'd be happy to do that. But I really do think that trying to keep everybody away from each other at the parade is not gonna, it's just not gonna be possible, I don't think.
No, I agree. I agree.
I just want to throw in, if you make it a 4th of July event, you might attract a lot more people than you
Then you
think.
think,
If
that's a
other
good point.
places are not doing
Oh,
it.
yeah, okay.
Yes, it's
If we're gonna
pluses and
cancel it,
minuses.
we should probably just cancel it.
Okay, well, so I will put that in the newspaper article and maybe put a little separate thing too. But I appreciate everybody understanding, and I hope we can do it next year. I look forward to doing it every year, and it's fun. I think people enjoy it. But
Martha, you've done a great job.
thank you. I just don't feel comfortable trying to do it this year because of everything else.
No, I agree with you.
It's the right choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys for understanding.
Well, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for making it easy on us.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't going to argue with you, as much
Yeah.
as I'm disappointed.
So next on the agenda, we have the announcement of water sewer assistant. Last week, Frank, you said you wanted to do a little more homework on that.
And-
Where are you at now with this?
Yeah, basically, I talked to all the people involved. The person that we were looking at is Cody Bowen.
Hmm?
And one of the reasons is he's going to be around for a while and he's interested in it. He did work with Terry some in previous when he was a town employee. And he wants to do the schooling. He's willing to do the schooling. Terry's going to monitor that as far as getting him into the classes and making sure he shadows him when he needs to. And I'd also spoke with Dana because I offered it to him first because he is assistant. So I gave him an opportunity if he wanted to, and he's all good with Cody doing it. So I think that's the way we should go as a town. He wants to do it. I told him it's like a 25 or 30-year commitment to do it,
Mhm.
and he was all for that. So I think it's a good move for us. It'll ensure that we have somebody there for a while that knows where things are, and he can learn a lot from Terry in the meantime. So Terry didn't think it spiked the budget at all. He thought there was plenty of money there for that kind of assistance. So he's going to use him sparingly at first when he does major jobs or anything that he feels he should learn. I think it's up to Terry to teach him what he needs to know. So I'm all for it myself. I think it's a good move for us.
Are we putting a time on when his certification should be in place, like 6 months, a year, 2 years? Can we do that?
Right now, there's no classes available until the fall. At least that's when they usually schedule them for the winters, according to Terry. But because of the way this thing is happening now, nobody really knows if they'll schedule them again. He does have a lot of paperwork that as far as what the classes are all about and what they are. There's a lot of math that goes into this. It's not hard math, but it is math that he's got to do, and he's willing to do it. And I told him if he did take the project over, as far as taking Terry's place down the road, that he'd have to, report to the select board and, tell us what's going on with the water system and all that. So, and he's willing to do that. So right now they don't have any classes scheduled, and hopefully they resume them in the fall. That's all we can do.
Why don't we go with a 1 year, and we'll revisit it again in a year to see how the classes are going and certification. Do it that way.
I don't have a problem with that. I think that's probably a good idea.
Yep.
So I have a quick question. If something should happen to Terry in the next 5 or 6 months where he couldn't work for whatever reason, who would run the show?
There is numbers that people have. Terry gave me a bunch of numbers that there are people, like there's a guy in Bethel that can manage our water system if we need. And the state has a list of people that can step in if we get into a situation like that. He has to, once he gets his, Cody would get his certification, he needs a year under someone's, belt, basically, before he can get fully certified. So that's after he completes his schooling. So regardless of what we do, we need to get him started as soon as possible and then play forward from there.
Frank,
So would you, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
um, does this involve the sewer system also?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he would
he's doing
become-
both.
He would
Our sewer
become,
Our sewer system's a little different. It's kind of it's a mongrel. It's a one of a kind of system. And there's not as much to state control over that. And he doesn't need any licensing for that. He just needs to know how the system works and where the problem spots are and how to go about taking care of those.
don't they need shots?
Yeah, there's stuff like that, sure, but there's not any schooling or anything as far as that goes. And I mentioned it to Julie in the past about what we do as far as getting him started, and of course, he's going to have to do the COVID thing and become, a town employee, so to speak. So, and he'll start doing that as soon as he accepts a position, which he's going to do. So I'll meet with him and move him forward.
May I ask a question? Patty, what
Sure.
you were suggesting, when you said for 1 year, are you thinking you're suggesting the board would approve for 1 year subject to renewal kind of thing?
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
the way to
Yeah.
go. I mean,
Okay.
if he's not doing the work, then we might as well give it up,
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
For the class, because it's a 2-year process. So if he gets his classic room done in 1 year, then he can go on to his, what we call the journeyman's part of his education, and he'd be actually certified in 2 years.
Right, exactly. It takes a 2-year certification, but in my conversations with Terry, he said if something happened to him in the 2 years, in the second, his second year going into it, that the state would help him get through that process so that we would be covered, he felt. So
So Frank, as an employee, how many hours a week are you anticipating?
Terry said he's not going to use him that often, only when there's something that he feels he should know and
Yeah.
how to do things. He said he has a job coming up that's kind of a tricky one. It's something to do with the water system. I'm not really sure exactly where it is or how it is, but he said he'd like to use him there because there's some things he's got to crawl in, and I don't think Terry wants to crawl in anywhere. So he would like to use him then. But he doesn't anticipate it being a financial drain on the community. He thinks there's money in the budget already that would cover
Well,
the kind of usage that he's going to
it
have.
needs to happen anyway, regardless. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
He's replacing hours we're already giving to Dana. So
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a big expansion of that expense.
No. And I think it's a good move
Okay.
for us to start that process.
All right. It sounds good. So that's not something we have
can
to
we-
vote on. That's more of a higher thing. So I guess
That's an-
we'll get that paperwork going.
Yep. Julie can get that started, and I'll talk with Cody and make sure he comes forth to do the COVID and any other information he needs to get or anything else he's required of. So we'll do that.
All right. So Cody. We also have on the agenda at the advice of Amy Wilt, the modification of the criteria for the Kirkpatrick Memorial Scholarship. And I will just read what the original wording is and then what her suggestions are in changing it. And this basically is in response to the evolution of the school structure and the fact that our high school kids are being dispersed around. So originally it would say the award would be awarded to a graduate who has maintained at least an 80 grade point average over a 4-year period of grades 9 through 12, is accepted at a 4-year college, has demonstrated good citizenship in school and community life, and who would otherwise be unable to pursue further education because of low family income, defined as total family income below the median family income for the Addison, Windsor counties. And what she is suggesting is that the award would be awarded to the graduate who has maintained a strong academic background over a 4-year period, is accepted in a postgraduate accredited program of higher education or certified trades program, and demonstrates good citizenship in school and community life. So basically, it's broadening the where they're headed from not just a 4-year college, but could be a 2-year college or a trade program. Or what's your thoughts on that?
I thought the wording was good, and we should accept it as she wrote it. I thought it was a change that we needed to make, and if we're going to continue the scholarship, I've heard rumors that other communities like Bethel are looking for ways to dissolve their scholarships, and I know they're not a great deal of money for kids as far as at today's values go, but I think anything's a help. So I think if we can maintain the scholarships going forward, that we probably should.
I have a question as to if it sounds like you probably approve this. How will, I mean, graduation is pretty soon as far as, the date of when kids normally would have graduated. How will you decide on a student? How will you get applicants?
That's up to to Amy at this
Oh,
point.
okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we usually take the recommendation of
Right.
someone from the school. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank-
So
Can
I
I-
just have a quick question. Does that include apprenticeships if someone want to be an apprentice to a plumber, or if somebody wanted to be an apprentice to a car mechanic? Would that also extend to those sorts of situations?
Well, it's saying a postgraduate accredited program. So if it was a formal, I guess it could be if there was a formal internship, but that's a good question. I don't know.
Usually someone
Well-
doesn't pay to be an apprentice. It's a work
Yeah.
situation.
I think that what she was trying to get at was anybody that was involved in any vocational school anywhere that was put forth and was in good standing and was an upstanding person, I think. And that's how she was looking at it, as near as I could tell.
I mean, when you
June.
have the word, certified trades program,
Yeah,
certified by whom? I don't know. That's,
yeah.
That's usually a state accredited or
Yeah,
certified.
yeah.
Dune, could you just read the thing about Addison, Windsor County again?
that was in the original, the original language was,
But it's not in
someone
Amy's.
who would otherwise be unable to pursue further education because of low family income, defined as totally family income below the median family income for Addison, Windsor counties.
Okay, it's not in the
It's
revised.
not in the new one. No.
Perfect.
So I guess I'd move that we make that change and approve that.
I
Second.
second that.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Good. We also have here the 2020-2021 Windsor County Sheriff Department Service Contract. And it's we had stepped them up to a little bit more of a another 4 hours of service in response to the extent to which they were paying their own way. I know that the ticket writing has dropped off probably with the COVID situation because they're just everyone interested in keeping distance. I don't think that's a reason to lessen our coverage, because I think that things are only, I'm anticipating things will improve, and I think that we should keep it at the level that we have. Are there any other, do you guys have any concerns about that?
No, I don't. It's been, I think, it's been rather slow at this point as far as for law enforcement and all around. Talking with the state police lady there the other day, she was saying that it's been slow for her
Which is
business. Which is
There
good.
were no, it's written in the month of April.
Yeah.
So, they're saying that people are driving really fast because there's not a lot of cars on the road. Not the case in Rochester. We had no speeding tickets. So we've been very safe.
Well, he was out there today.
He was. I
He
saw
was very
him.
busy.
Someone pulled over today. Yeah.
He might have got one up on 73 too. I was on my bike there. A couple motorcycles flew by. We were going about 80, so I figured he might have had them, but I don't know.
So so I'd move that we approve that. Any second on that?
I second it.
All in favor?
In favor.
All
All right.
right.
Aye.
Thank you. Now that leads, I don't know if I have a older copy of the agenda or not, but there was also, this segues right into it. There we have had a request from the folks that have bought the Apple Hill Farm for permission to put some signs in the state right away in terms of animal crossings and stuff. My agenda doesn't have that on there, but I believe that was on a modified agenda.
I've got it June, but it's after approving liquor licenses.
Okay, yeah, that's
Huntington House in Maple Soul, and then it says 6 signs on the right of way for Peter Rogel. Is that what you're talking about?
yes.
Okay.
Since we're talking about traffic and such, why don't we jump to that right away and deal with that question? So was that a request also to lower the speed limit, or just to put signs asking people to be careful?
I can speak for this. He's kind of my neighbor and has kind of taken, he's asked me to help him do a few things. So I'll explain what he wants to do, and then I'll recuse myself from voting just to save the integrity of the board. He wants 3 signs west and 3 signs east. And one of them's a pedestrian, 2 of them would be pedestrian signs, and 2 of them are horse signs, basically horse and animals, slow. And in my conversation with Ryan Slack, for the state, apparently, as I understand it, he needed permission from the town in order to put those signs up, but I don't believe he has the right to put them up, that the state comes in and puts them up for him. But he's requesting, but the way the protocol for the state is, they have to get us to sign off and say it's okay to do that, because we don't have any control over the speed limit on the state highway.
Right.
And we certainly don't have any control about where they place the signs in the state right away. So I believe it's all turned over to the state at that point. And I will check on that tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, but during this next week, because I have a personal issue with Ryan that I want to address. And so I'll be in contact with him. But that's what he wants to do. So I'll just mute off, and you and Patty can figure out what you want to do.
Can I ask a
Well, I for
question?
one think that 6 might be too much.
What?
Yeah, you're breaking up on me, Pat.
I'm
hear
thinking that 6 signs may be too many signs. I just, I think maybe 1 each way or 2 each way, no more than 4, rather than litter the road with 3 signs for 1 property. But I don't have a large opinion one way or another. I would not want to be asking to lower the speed limit. So that's all I have for an opinion.
What is the speed limit? Is it 45 miles per hour or higher?
No, it's 50. 50. Yeah. I think that's a good point. I don't know exactly how much property he owns on there, but 3 signs does seem a little overkill.
He does own both sides of the road.
He does own
have
both
property
sides of the road. I understand that, but
side too. So, it's justified for 1 or 2 signs at most, but I'm not sure about 3.
He owns from where the power line crosses the river that serves over to the AI place. And then he owns up to Bruce, I think he owns up to your driveway, I believe, isn't it? Or
No.
somewhere near that.
No, it's
Just before
down at
that?
the edge of the upper meadow is the joint property line between their property and my property. And just to clarify it, I don't know if he's changing the signs that he had up because 4 of them were all the same wording. Basically, it said slow down animals and people crossing. And he had 1 pedestrian sign, which looked like the person was laying down in the road. Frank, you probably saw that. Yeah.
Yes, I did. I got a chuckle out of it too, Bruce.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
Put their own signs up. It won't be the signs that the homeowner had. The state will do their own signs.
right. I could see I agree with you, Pat, on maybe 4 signs, but 6 might be overkill. Would be overkill. So I'd vote to approve that, or give our support for that.
I second it.
All right, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
okay. And then we're,
So you approved 4 there?
yeah, for 4.
Okay.
It makes sense if you have, if you're entering his property, if you have a sign there and then have a sign like close to the house, and once you're beyond that and leaving the property, there's no need for, then you could have the 2 and so they'd be staggered.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So we have a application from the Huntington House for a 3rd-class hotel liquor license, 1st-class liquor license renewal, and outside consumption liquor license. So when this issue came up about noise at night on the park last year, we made notes that we were going to revisit the hours when we renewed that, and they've applied to midnight, but I would suggest that we limit their outdoor permit to 10 o'clock.
I agree. And
I
I
think
believe
Frank, you had something to say?
No, I was waiting for Patty to finish.
I think she did.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
I think it's probably a good idea it's a residential area right there. And I think he's probably going to use it more now. I would think with social distancing, he's probably going to try to serve food outside at this point. I would think.
Yeah, I would
because
think so.
He probably can't, that's probably part of his use there. I know they got a backhoe there and they're doing some digging. I'm not really sure what that's all about.
I think they're putting in a patio there.
And
Oh,
the
is that what they're
pergola.
Yeah.
So
Is there a difference between a beer license and a hard liquor license? Or is that the same?
They're different.
I think that's the same liquor or beer.
No, it's wine and beer.
Wine and beer is different than.
So it says 3rd-class hotel liquor license and 1st-class liquor license. So those are 2 different things, obviously. So
Yeah.
what's the difference?
I think that what the, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that with the takeout, they're upping the takeout. That is giving them permission to sell alcohol to be taken away versus just previously it was just to be consumed on the property. And we all know that the liquor or alcohol is one of the major profit centers for a eating establishment. And so that's the request there.
So if someone orders a bottle of wine out and they're sitting outside and they order it at 10 of 10 in the evening, that means that they can continue on drinking.
Inside.
Oh,
I
they would
think-
have to go inside?
First would let them know that the curfew is approaching, just like any other curfew. We're closing in 15 minutes. The
Okay.
server would let them know that. Yes.
Okay.
So any other discussion on that? I'd move we approve it, but with the modification to 10 o'clock instead of 12 o'clock.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, thank you. And all right, and I see there's a lot of farmers been haunting the Zoom meeting here, and thank you for your patience.
What about
to
Maple
talk about.
Soul?
Say what?
What about
there's a
Maple
Maple
Soul
Soul there, Dune.
liquor license?
All right, see, I'm still working off of an old agenda here.
sorry.
So, yeah, okay. So you want to, what's on the Maple Soul one?
It just says approval of Maple Soul second-class restaurant liquor license.
All right. And I would move to approve that.
I second it.
Yep. All in favor?
All right,
Aye, okay. We haven't had any complaints about noise from there. Okay, now the farmers. So it sounds like the governor's guidance on farmers markets is opening up and allowing. There's the main issue that has been coming up pre-COVID was the overuse of the park and that one strip on the trees. So I think that the COVID situation is a perfect opportunity to spread things out and spread the wear out on the park. You guys, Asia, Paula, and Kevin.
No,
you
this is
wanna
this
say
is
that?
Beth. Beth Bach. Yeah.
Beth.
Okay, so
Whoa. Got some
I-
feedback.
I have to move. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think that's better.
All right.
I'm high. So as Dune said, because of the governor's guidelines for how we can do farmers markets this year, what they have said is that the tents need to be 12 feet apart. And in lieu of that, what we're planning on doing is doing sort of like no tents on the front where the grass is not in the greatest shape, but rather do it like in a big U all around the park. Maybe there'll be one on the front at the north and south side of the park on Route 100, but then they'll just go kind of around in a semicircle and back to from the south side to the north side. That's what we're thinking right now. We have to make a clearly designated entrance and exit. People can only go one way. They need to stay 6 feet away from the tents. I mean, it's just all the same stuff.
Yeah.
No music, no lingering.
No activities of any kind.
So there's no prepared food? Is that one of the
Oh,
issues?
the prepared food, but it has to be pre-packaged and it cannot be
Prepackaged, okay.
on the park. Or, I don't know, we're a little about not eating it on the park. Not exactly sure how that's gonna work because where the market is, there's a lot more park. We're gonna try and get people to not eat in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. We have it pretty well planned out. I bought 100 yellow flags to help mark everything out. So to make it really clear and some
So you could
signs.
actually have much more than the minimum of 12 feet between the tents, can't you?
I don't think so. That's a lot. That's a lot of space. Well, 12 feet and 10 feet. If we have 20 vendors, I don't know. I don't think we're really going to have that many this year, but you know, yeah, we can't, I don't think so. I don't think we'd be able to fit everybody in if we put them too much farther. That's a lot of space.
We plan on also being stricter about vendors letting us know whether they're going to be there or not. And in doing so, we can, Beth and I always get there at least the morning of and space everything out. So if we have exact numbers, we'll be more able to make sure that everyone is adequately spaced. And obviously, like Beth said, more tape regulating one-way signs. The NOFA Vermont has a lot of options for signs that show, must wear a mask, et cetera, et cetera. They have a lot of resources that we've been able to access. So
Are people who are selling going to be wearing masks?
Yes,
I
and
would
gloves.
assume so. Yeah.
And do you expect people who are buying to be wearing masks?
Yes.
I would think there would probably want to be some signage in the
That's what-
entrance making that point. you know.
Yep, that's all part of what Asha was saying, that the NOFA has provided us with the signage, which we'll print out and
Yeah.
post.
Rob, you had a question?
Well, I just got a comment. We do Wakefield Farmers Market every Saturday, and it started 2 weeks ago. We've had 2 weeks of compliance in there. It's taken quite a lot of grappling with all the different vendors and all the rules and everything. So we've been doing it 2 weeks already. So Beth and Aja, if you want to talk to me about how it's worked there and how we've refined it over a couple of weeks, you're welcome to. I mean,
Okay.
there is particular signage they've got, and it's quite controlled. Someone's counting the people who come in, although it hasn't been necessary yet, because they've got an enclosed space. If we have a circle with the outside, with everybody on the outside, there wouldn't be any enclosure. But if you're going to have a one-way traffic, you will have to have, if you're in a circle, you will have to have an outside perimeter ribbon as well, so people can't move back against each other. So the state's been clear that there has to be a one-way traffic thing. So if we're in a circle, you're also going to have a second circle around it, an entryway, and then you keep to the right or you keep to the left and go one way.
I see, like a grocery store.
Yeah, the rules are actually stricter than the grocery store. It's kind of amazing, really, because you're in the outdoors and you're on a great expanse of things in the fresh air. But there's two issues. One of them is all these rules, and I think it sounds like Beth and Aja, you've got them down. But the other one is about like the impact on the park. The way I also do Woodstock Farmers Market sometimes on a Wednesday, and the way that they deal with that is they just shift it each week a little bit. So they move it in or out or down and across. But I think for the last few years, we've had pretty much the same place.
Yeah.
Up in the same spot, and then my feet are in the same spot wearing the grass down. So going forward, whether we're in the center of the park or if we do it along the front, all we have to do is shift it slightly, a few feet forward or back and around, so that the impact isn't in the same place.
Rob, how are people paying, and do they get close to the seller? Are they just using credit cards? Is that the way it works best? Is there a machine they reach out and put their card into, and that
Right.
work?
The state has required that every vendor makes it as maximum as possible to prepay and just pick it up. There's also only one family member allowed at Waitsfield. You can't come in with your whole family. So you get a frustrated husband standing at the gateway while his wife goes in and does it, and is like whines to me over the tape saying, "Why can't I also come in?" Or "What can't you serve me over the tape out the back?" But you're supposed to prepay as many as possible. I got 3 on the first market and I got 2 on the second only. And there's a sign saying, please offer correct change or use credit card or Venmo or some other form of payment. And I've got a chip reader. I use Square, I have a chip reader, and the chip reader is right on the table out the front. So there's a second table. You have your own table with a display, and then 6 feet further out, there's another table. Look at the video of how Montpelier Farmers Market's done it. If you want to see how they've done it, they posted it. And so nothing's on that. There's nothing on that front table except, some disinfectant stuff, and you have to wipe it down after every transaction. So there's no tablecloth, for example, or there's no samples people can put their hand on and transfer. It's just the chip reader. And then if you're going to pay by cash, you put your cash into a container and take the container away and tip it out somewhere. People are supposed to not ask to make change, although some people, they do anyway, especially if they're tourists. They've come in. There were tourists this last weekend and they hadn't quarantined for 14 days. They had massive standing around with no masks. But they wouldn't let anybody into the Waitsfield market without wearing a mask. And they had to disinfect their hands with provided disinfectant as they did it.
I've got a question.
Catherine?
Will people who have EBT cards be able to use them at the farmer's market?
So we actually, we have never been EBT certified, so to speak. This year was going to be our first year where we started the process. It is a lengthy process to apply to be eligible to accept SNAP and other benefits. And we had started that process in the fall. And then with COVID, obviously, everything kind of shifted. We weren't even sure if we could have a market. So long story short, we're in the process of talking to the state, but all the applications are taking longer to process, and as you can imagine. So the hope and the goal is that, yes, I can say tentatively, the hope is that at least at some point in the summer we will have that option.
Well, I think I think that it's a good plan. I mean, we're gonna stumble our way through it, and I'm sure there'll be some, some frustrations, but it's I think it's gonna be as the concerts on the park. I think it's a vital, vibrant sign of life in the community, and that. Rob?
Well, thanks for that. I agree with that part for sure. People do want to get out, and people do want to get fresh local food more than ever. And I found that people are calling me just because I've got something on my website page saying you can order from me and pick it up at the park, and people have pick it up at the market, and people have done that. But if we're going to have it, this is for Beth and Aja, if we're going to have a circle in the middle of the, no.
It's not going to be
It's not a circle.
It's not a circle.
It's gonna be a blob.
It's going to be like I don't know how else.
So essentially from where the skip mart is, arcing towards the monument and around back towards the park house. A C, if you speak.
I would think you'd go up further than that, just to protect the front of the park, because that is tough business there. And I think if you could start up further and do the backside, that might be a lot easier. And that's a better place to do it as far as the protection of the park is concerned. My issue with the whole thing is simple. I'm not against the farmer's market at all, but I am against the way the town uses the park. I think we need a vibrant policy there and a fee schedule set up for this type of use, whether it be a weekly fee, a yearly fee, but I would think it would be a weekly fee and for the vendors and everyone else. It's a policy I think the town has missed out on, because what it's done is it's created a eyesore and a tough place to fix up. The park is really the crown jewel of our community, and the way we've used it in the past, we need to take better care of it. And you can't expect the taxpayers to pay the full brunt of any damage that incurs by the amount of traffic that's on the park. And that's the way I feel. I'm sorry that if you think that's wrong, but I think that we need a better policy as a town for the usage there. I can see it's a venture that is not town sponsored. The Harvest Fair is not a town sponsored event, although it does a lot of good things. But I think you don't go to the Pierce Hall and not pay a fee for using the space. And I feel honestly that this would go a long way in trying to help keep the park a sacred place as far as the grass and the grounds. And I do think we need a better policy as a town going forward. And that's my feeling. I'm not opposed to the farmers market being there, but I do think we need to take better care of the grounds. And I think it's essential now. It's in really bad shape. I've had the thing soil tested. I haven't got the results yet, but I've emailed both Dune and Patty and Nancy, I believe, about my friend coming down who ran a major lawn business. He had major accounts, and the park needs some work, and it's going to take some work to get it back. It's going to take some money to do it. I haven't run any numbers because I didn't get the proposal until Saturday, and I don't know exactly what it's going to cost. But I do think as a select board, maybe we do it or we have to go through the voters, but we work on something that is a fee-based plan. If it's not town-sponsored, there should be a fee associated with the use of the park to help with the maintenance. And that's the way
Frank, are you opposed to the benches or picnic tables on the park the way they are now?
I'm not opposed to them being there. I think they could be in a different place, but I'm not opposed to them being there. The park is set up it's inviting. It invites people to come and have lunch, to sit, walk their dog, walk themselves, have a break from the drive or whatever. And that's the way I've viewed the park over the whole course of my life. When I grew up here as a kid, the monument that's down at the cemetery there used to be on that cement abutment right behind where the farmer's market sits. And that place, we used to play baseball there. And that place was so full of glass. And that was one of the reasons why that monument was moved, because everybody broke bottles on that thing. And it was just total. You couldn't slide into home base without getting cut. So part of the reason for that monument being moved, they felt it was a lot better place to be down by the cemetery. And quite frankly, my personal feeling is we do need a better plan as a town going forward.
I agree with you, Frank, and I love, but I do like having the benches and the picnic tables there. I think they are inviting and they're a good thing to have.
So Catherine, you've got a question?
Yeah, in your consultation with the specialist, I would hope that maybe there's some exploration of ground cover that's more durable, because I also think that hosting things like Harvest Fair and the farmers market is a real boon to the town, and people do like to congregate on the park for that purpose.
I don't agree with you a bit. I think it is a boon to the town, but I do think that it's a use that we need to watch over as far as have a plan for. A fee-based plan, I think, is important. And it's not to make anybody upset or, be hard on anybody. I'm not saying that. It's just, I think the town needs to do something about it. That's my feeling.
So Beth, up to this point, there's no fee to the town in regards to using the park for the farmer's market, is there?
No.
No, there hasn't been. Yeah. So Frank, did you have something in mind, or is this something, I think this is something that needs some discussion, not that we could decide right now.
I think we need to keep it in our mind, and I'm not even sure how much that would be, but I do think we need open discussion about it at some point, and we come up with a figure, whether it be a weekly figure for the duration of the market, or whether we come up with a vendor fee. I mean, I personally think that just a weekly fee is the way to go to help and to put towards the park for this type of use.
Frank, I don't object to what you're saying, but I think it's premature to try to do anything this quickly, particularly in light of the fact that they don't even know how successful the farmers market is going to be this year.
I do agree with that, Nancy, and I think that can be arranged. I'm not, saying we need to do it tomorrow or anything else, but I do think in the long run, we need to come up with
this discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
It needs to be a discussion, and people need to be able to have input into it.
That's right.
And it could take until next year to get this kind of a policy established.
True.
Yeah. Rob?
Well, I think what you're saying about protecting the park is persuasive. That's good. There shouldn't be a negative impact to the park in any way from any activity that takes place there. If a
Right.
fee solves that problem, well, then that would be good. But then the fee does what? The fee then pays for the road crew or something to replace the grass. I would rather see us reduce impact than just go, oh, a fee's the answer. That's my feeling on it.
Mhm. And Rob Gardner, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think it's quite a good idea, but it's a complicated idea because something like the farmers market or the harvest fair, they bring something to the town. They bring a value to the town. So simply charging them for it, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I think it's a good idea in a larger and more complicated discussion, the way I think Nancy is suggesting. I think I suggested something like this in the budget meeting.
Yes, you did.
And there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm for it. I think it's a complicated thing whose essence is correct, but needs a lot more discussion. That's all I said.
Well,
All right, well,
I think it's reasonable, and I think it's good that Frank is having somebody come in and look at the park,
Right.
look and see what needs to be done, get a sense of how much that would cost, and, you know, use that as part of the discussion once a discussion is set aside.
I can tell you that we go to farmers markets in a town in Maine, and it has had the same kind of use. It's heavy use. And the town has been bearing the expense up to $20,000 a year to reseed. Now, there are a lot more people who are using the area, but it's an expense to the town. In that case, it's $20,000. That's a lot of money.
So we actually, I mean, as the market, in the last few years, I mean, we've been committed. We always leave the park and nicer than we left it. We pick up all the garbage before and after. Last fall, Beth and I and Spencer went out there and raked and seeded and everything. I mean, we can have a long discussion about why grass doesn't grow in that particular spot. But you know, the farmers market, remember, is not like a private business where we make money off of this event. You know, the vendor fees go to essentially supporting the market, whether it be musicians or whatnot. And even this year, we're talking about how to make it affordable for vendors, because, you know, we see the farmers market as bringing food to the community, and also, you know, so it's a little bit of a touchy subject, I think, to start regulating an event that brings food and.
Yeah, this is a bigger discussion that's not going to be decided tonight, but it's important to bring it up and to recognize. I'm personally excited to see how it works, spreading the wear out on the park and not hammering on the same spot. But we're going to have to explore this topic and do some research and see what other places do and see what the costs are going to be to do the park. And I mean, this would reach over to, I would assume, to something like the Harvest Fair also, you know, where they're,
Yeah,
you know.
Players, I'm on the players board, and we've been discussing whether we could have the Harvest Fair. And then I just heard recently this week that the governor has decided that all fairs are closed down, including the Tunbridge Fair. So we probably won't have, I can't say for sure, but it looks like we won't have the Harvest Fair this year. But I don't know. We hope we can. But.
Tunbridge Fair, boy.
I suggest there's two things happening here. One of them is what to do in the long term relative to maintaining the park and how that will happen. The second thing is there's a farmers market schedule planned for 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks away.
Right.
Can Frank meet with Beth and Aja on the park and step out where Frank would, you know, is proposing we have it for the moment to reduce the impact so that we can get that part settled for the upcoming market?
Yeah, I'm more than willing.
Oh wait, I'm muted. Hang on a second. Yes. We were gonna. Aja and I were planning, and actually we're gonna ask some other people to join us to go out and do sort of a mock-up this week. Yeah, or maybe first thing next week.
Okay.
So we'll let you know. Yeah.
And I'll meet with you.
Okay.
And we can go through it.
All right.
The one thing that occurs to me is on all of these events, it's not just the pedestrian along the Route 100, it's cars parked all the way around the park. And so if you're going to be taking the longer view of park usage, maybe you should be looking into thinking about the parking as well. Maybe there could be a solution.
I do have some ideas about that too. So,
And then, you know, the kind of surface, it doesn't all have to be grass, and it can still be very attractive.
Well, it's definitely going to be an ongoing conversation for sure.
I think so. And there are issues about cars parking in the new Riverbrook Park. And they're also parking right in front of the tennis court on the grass. They're parking alongside the tennis court on the grass. There is not enough information for drivers, although you would think might have some common sense, where they should park. And, you know, I think that the town needs to address this as a whole, you know, parking and where people are supposed to park and where they're not supposed to park.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll Frank, you're gonna meet with Beth and Asia and see about the plan on that.
yes, love to.
Okay. But meanwhile, we're looking forward to having the first market in 2 weeks. Is that what I heard?
It's a week from this coming Friday.
Week from
So
Friday.
June,
Right.
oh, is it the 4th or the 5th? It's the 4th.
Joan, I see that you're here. I didn't see you earlier, so I didn't ask you for any updates, but do you have something that you want to share? Joan?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never can tell if I'm muted or unmuted. Mostly I'm just working on all the stuff that I reported on the last meeting. The only update I have for now is that I just heard from V-Trans that they're delaying approval of the structures grant applications, similar to what we heard a little bit earlier about the Better Roads applications. It's kind of unclear at this point whether they're even going to have a round this year. They're not saying they're not yet, but because the transportation budget at the state level is up in the air and various other reasons related to COVID-19, I don't know what's going to happen with that. We are already out to bid on the Nason Brook culvert. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens, because obviously whatever happens for Rochester is happening for everyone around the state.
And when we put that out to bid, it was contingent on that funding coming through.
Yeah, we were very careful. Cricket in particular was very careful to make it all very transparent and say, you know, we're dealing with an uncertain environment and we're basing this bid on what we know now, but that could change.
Yeah. Not a total surprise, is it?
No.
No. Okay. All right. We have, I had, Pat, you already gave your shout out to your Uncle Bob. Was it Uncle Bob or?
My brother.
Brother Bob. All right. I want to talk about the request from Angus McCusker, who is putting together the grant application for the Bellomont trail. And I think that it's basically it's a win-win for Vermont citizens and visitors to the Green Mountain State, and the the economic vitality of the whole area. So I would be interested in writing a letter of support for that grant application, and who knows if they're giving out money, but it's worth a try. So
where does that go, Dune? Where does that start?
This is basically it's a long-term project. This grant is for the section that is going to basically connect Rochester to Pittsfield via Corporation Brook.
Oh, way up?
Not Corporation Brook, I'm sorry, I mean Chittenden Brook.
Chittenden Brook. Oh,
Chittenden Brook. So it's, and this is like a planning, this is still, you know, it's a big project.
yes, it is. This
Yeah.
is-
But
not-
it's the
not
National
a throw from
Forest.
there.
The National Forest is on board with it. It was part of the Robinson's project. And it would head up and drop down into Bingo and then hop over to Chittenden Brook, and then there's a route over into Lower Michigan Road. And basically, it's eventually it's going to be a recreation trail, multi-use trail that the length of the state. Originally, the first vision of it is to between Killington and Stowe, and it's a big project, but it's a there's a lot of momentum behind it, and um, anyway, I think that the town would offer it some encouragement because the whole town would serve to benefit from that.
I would support that.
Yeah, me too. We've been forced for years to be a recreational area, and so I don't see any issue why we shouldn't. Some people aren't going to like it, but that's the way it is.
Yep.
Yep.
We've been talking about it for a year.
Yeah.
And it won't be done for 1 or 2 years.
Right.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Good thing.
It's a long-term project. But, all right. There's Rob Gardner. Did you want to have anything to say just in terms of update on the whole COVID situation in Vermont and our town, and I guess as people start to relax, it's important to still be vigilant and still be careful. I know you have something to say about that.
Only that the state of Vermont nationally has done very well. The governor's made that clear, and he's right. And of course, people here in the valley have done really well. So I think everyone is moving forward cautiously, and as we talked about in this meeting here. But slow and cautious seems to be the direction people are going, and it's going well, but slowly.
Slowly, yeah.
Thank you.
June, I saw in the national news Wednesday night that the state of Vermont has the lowest infection rate of all the 50 states.
Yeah. We also have the technically most rural population of the 50 states, so in terms of how spread out we are. So
Oh, true. But,
yeah.
Between us and Wyoming, isn't it?
No, it's they base that on the fact that there are so many, like 260 something separate villages in Vermont, whereas when you get to Wyoming, there's a lot more land, but then there's the bigger towns that people are joined in. And so that if you look at the ruralness of the dispersion of population, we're right up there.
Yeah, I think we're considered the most rural. We
Yeah.
have also extremely high unemployment rates
Yeah. Goes-
right now.
Hey, Rob, has there been any increase in the use of the food shelf? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't talked to Vic about that. We did put out some advertising about it a short time ago.
And flyers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's been work done on that, and the unemployment figures were pretty much as Dune suggested. I mean, as Vic suggested they would be. But you know, a lot of people are spending the last of their stimulus money, and it's not the kind of thing I don't think that would happen as a sharp-edged.
Yeah.
I did want to mention one other thing though, because it's come up a couple of times, and that is the concern about people with outside license plates. There's a proper way and an improper way to deal with that. And the proper way is to call the town, John White, the town health officer, COVID health officer, and have him go and talk to whoever it is you're concerned about and let him handle that. The improper thing to do is to bitch people out for being from out of state, which has happened a couple of times. And I had gotten some notes from people who were out of state who owned property here and called me and said, you know, what's the temperature like there? And people have really been pretty kind here, but I think it's important that they understand that there is a way to do this, and that John White does have the power of the court and the police behind me if it comes to that, which it never has. And that's the proper way to do it. And I just wanted to mention that here, and you can pass that on as much as you want.
Thank you.
Thank
Does
you.
anyone else have anything they'd like to talk about tonight?
You
There's
still
just
have a
one more
couple of
thing on
items.
the agenda,
We had
dude.
2 more items on the agenda.
All right.
too.
Cool. Okay, I don't have that agenda, so sock
It's
and
the
two.
new hours of the town clerk.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
I
Um,
don't really.
Becky and I would like to, starting June 1st, have the hours of Tuesday through Friday from 9 to 5 instead of 8 to 4.
Okay.
That sounds reasonable to me. It might make it a little easier for people to get in there at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's pretty quiet from 8 to 9, so I thought that really it would, it didn't seem to impact anybody that's working early in the morning. We get very few, so.
I don't have a problem with that. Frank or Patty?
No,
No, me either. Did we need to talk about the tax situation, Julie? Is that something that,
we
Yes,
will next.
It says property tax payment grace period on the agenda.
oh,
Yes,
I
so-
don't have that on my agenda, so
It's on mine.
Yeah. My agenda, but Julie, you'll need to update your hours on a lot of different levels on the website and with the
Right.
state. The lawyers get
Right.
books of all works. There's a lot of different places you have to go to do that. So make sure you
Right.
get those bases covered.
I will. Yeah, that's why I wanted to start now with maybe Martha could put it in the paper and then, yeah,
I'll put it in my article. Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Of course, not
Considering
everybody
the
reads
office
the
is
article, so.
close to the public now, I guess this is a good time to start working on changing the hours. So when we do open, it'll
Right.
move into the new schedule. Huh?
Yeah, I thought that would be good.
You
Okay.
raising your hand, Pat?
Final thing on the agenda is now the property tax payment grace period. I think that's the final thing on the agenda for today.
Right.
What we were thinking of doing, Julie was thinking of not charging a penalty on payments that are coming in. The final payment was due May 15th.
Yeah.
And extending the period to make a payment without a penalty until June 15th. I believe we would still charge interest, but not the penalty, which is 8%, correct, Julie?
That's correct.
Yeah.
the state
Anybody have any thoughts?
and said that they want that to happen. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know we discussed that earlier in our conversations. I'm not sure if we brought it up in a meeting, but we kind of threw it out at each other just to think about it, to come up with some kind of idea. And
Mhm.
you're all for it, Julie? You think it's going to be a good thing?
Yeah, I think there's, surprisingly, we were anticipating a lot more taxes would come in delinquent, but people paid their taxes and there's a few, so this might make if we give them the grace period, I think that the rest will come in at that time.
I think it's a good idea. I'd vote for that.
Yeah, I think it's fine too. I don't see an issue with it myself. It may behoove them to pay a little quicker too, move them
Right.
to do that. That would be good.
Right, and
That's really good news. People paid their taxes for the large part. That's
Yeah.
really good news. We were wondering how that was going to go.
yes, we were very happy when the amount of delinquent taxes on May, let's say 16th, was not an astronomical figure. It's just slightly above the average. My concern was Becky, the treasurer and collector of delinquent taxes, that it does get a percentage of that. I did have a discussion with Becky about that, and she's okay with waiting the extra 30 days.
I wouldn't want to extend it at all because it'll get into the next fiscal year, and I don't think that's
Right.
the one installment I'm worried more about is August. I mean, if we've got a massive amount of unemployment, we may not be quite so lucky.
Yeah.
The next time.
We also have a school vote that will likely take place on June 30th.
Right.
Only a vote.
Do you know anything more? Are you saying most likely will take place? That
Tomorrow night,
not sure.
they're supposed to sign the warning.
When?
Tuesday night.
Tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 5
Okay.
o'clock.
It's possible that the warning will be in this week's Herald, but I don't know for sure, depending on the by the time they sign it.
They're supposed to sign it tomorrow night.
Yeah. So I haven't heard anything. I was looking forward to when, they haven't had.
They have a warned meeting for tomorrow night.
Yeah, I know, but it's via Zoom kind of thing. Yes.
And does anyone know how the voting is actually physically going to happen?
Ask Julie.
It looks like we're going to test the voting similar to what I guess Frank and a group has looked at the school for primaries in August and then the election in November.
Right. Are you going to have a absentee ballot for people to vote on the school vote?
I believe so. We're just getting the details to all of that, so it'll be coming out.
Okay.
So you wouldn't actually be going to the town office or to the school to physically vote, is what you're saying?
Well, you could either do the absentee or
okay. I'm sorry.
you could do either or.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We've been through the space a couple times. Rob Meadows, Sandy Hawes, and myself. We went through the space and with Bonnie Bourne. And I think Julie and Becky, you're going to go down there Wednesday, maybe?
Yes.
And I was going to join you and make sure we iron it out. And I'll inform you, Burma, on what that is when we get it set for sure. It looks pretty safe to me as far as how we have it set up. It's a one-way in, one-way out. We use 2 rooms. Basically, we can tape the floor. The floor is actually tile, so it's got foot markers in there already, and we can put a piece of tape down and run some flag and tape in different places to keep people separate. The 2 entrances, there's an entrance and an egress, which will work great because we can keep people separated that way. Plus, there is some eaves there where people can be out of the rain if it's raining or whatever. So
right.
I think it would be a good setup. We've been through it once, and we'll be looking at it again later this week. So.
Oh, excuse me.
Is that it?
It looks like it on the agenda I have.
Thank you all once again. Be nice to meet in person again, but meanwhile,
yep.
Celebrity Squares.
Dune, I have one more.
Hi, John Boy.
Dune, the next meeting is the 8th, June 8th, Monday, June 8th.
I believe so. Would that be the second Monday? Yep.
Okay. Well, because I always put that at the end of my article. So Monday, June 8th, then it would be a Zoom meeting as usual as of now.
As far as
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Right. No problem. All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Night, guys.
Night all.
Good night.
Thank you.